Adding children into a California divorce changes the paperwork and the process in real ways. This video walks through how custody generally works, the standard judges use, and which forms come into play once kids are part of the picture. California recognizes two separate types of custody, and they can be awarded separately from each other. Legal custody is about decision-making. Who has the right to decide on things like education, healthcare, religious upbringing, extracurricular activities, and major travel? Physical custody is about where the child actually lives day to day. Joint legal custody, where both parents share decision-making and consult each other on major decisions, is the most common arrangement in California, and courts generally prefer it. It's worth noting that joint legal custody doesn't mean asking permission for everything. Day-to-day choices like what to eat or bedtime are made by whichever parent the child is with at the time. Joint legal custody is specifically about consultation on major decisions. Sole legal custody, where one parent has exclusive decision-making authority, generally only comes up in narrower situations, such as a history of domestic violence, severe substance abuse, or a total inability of the parents to communicate. Physical custody works on a spectrum rather than a strict binary. Joint physical custody means the child spends significant time living with both parents, which doesn't have to mean an exact 50-50 split. Arrangements like 60-40 or 70-30 can still count as joint, sole, or primary. Physical custody means the child lives mainly with one parent, with the other parent generally having scheduled parenting time. Whatever the arrangement, California courts use one standard to decide: the best interest of the child under Family Code Section 3011. That means the court isn't deciding what's fair to either parent, and it isn't punishing one spouse for the marriage ending. The focus is entirely on what arrangement serves the child. It's also worth being clear that California law does not favor either parent based on sex. Family Code Section 3040 states directly that courts cannot prefer a parent as custodian because of that parent's sex, and there's also a general statutory presumption favoring joint custody when both parents actually agree to it. So what specifically do judges generally look at? The law requires courts to consider the child's health, safety, and welfare, any history of abuse, including a specific rebuttable presumption against awarding custody to a parent who's committed domestic violence within the past 5 years, the nature and amount of contact each parent has had with the child, and any habitual use of drugs or alcohol. Beyond those required factors, courts commonly also weigh stability, each parent's ability to support the child's relationship with the other parent, the child's ties to school and community, and, for older or more mature children, their own stated preference. One factor worth calling out specifically: California courts pay real attention to which parent is more likely to support the child's ongoing relationship with the other parent. Interfering with the other parent's time or speaking negatively about them in front of the child is something courts generally weigh against the parent doing it. In practice, custody schedules take a handful of common shapes. 50-50 schedules often use a week-on, week-off rotation, or a 2-2-3 pattern, where the child moves between parents every few days. Other families use a standard visitation pattern instead. The child lives primarily with one parent, and the other generally has every other weekend, one weeknight, alternating holidays, and extended time in the summer, which tends to work out to something like a 70-30 or 80-20 split. If you and the other parent were never married, custody still works the same way once parentage, meaning legal parent status, is established. For fathers, that generally means a signed, voluntary declaration of paternity, a court order, or DNA testing if it's disputed. Form FL 200 is used to establish parentage and request custody and support at the same time. Once parentage is established, the same custody standards described here apply. Custody orders also aren't permanent. Either parent can request a modification later by showing a significant change in circumstances since the last order was made. On the paperwork side, if you have minor children together, your case generally includes Form FL-105, the UCCJEA declaration, which gives the court the information it needs about where the children have lived. If you're requesting specific custody or visitation terms, that generally runs through Form FL-311, the Child Custody and Visitation Attachment, and once the court has ruled, the actual terms are documented on Form FL-341, the Custody and Visitation Order, alongside Form FL-342 if child support is part of your case. Custody is often the part of a divorce that feels the least like paperwork and the most like real life, but the forms still matter, since they're what the court actually relies on. Virdix walks you through the UCCJEA declaration and the custody and visitation forms in plain language, based on the situation you describe, so your case reflects what you're actually asking for. Virdix is a document preparation service, not a law firm, so this is not legal advice. And for advice about your specific situation, talk to a licensed attorney. You can start at virdix.co.